Welcome. My name is Thea Powers, and I'm one of six IMCC Dharma leaders. And I want to honor every person that's here tonight. We're a compassion and a wisdom-based community, and we intend to live into core values that include folks rather than exclude folks. So whether you're just joining us or you've been here for years, I invite you to take your place here with ease and know that you're welcome. So tonight we've gathered just 7 days before the end of 2025. And personally, I'm feeling lots of energy and emotion this year amidst deep strife and loss of freedom in our own country and the harshness that seems to be common now in the US and even across the globe. And yet, gentle remembrances are also happening across the globe now in December, each carrying its own sacred message. I wanted to look at the confluence of some of the winter celebrations and then consider also the practice of not knowing and the practice of silence. So, the evening of December 24th, when this talk was originally recorded, this is a re recording, is known in the Christian tradition as Christmas Eve, and of course celebrates the birth of the Christ child, symbolically at least, on December 25th. And so, looking through that lens of understanding, we could say this night is sacred, set apart for a special purpose, and acknowledges forgiveness born as a human. It acknowledges unconditional love of God born into the human realm as Jesus. And Jesus is often referred to as the light of the world. And we'll see that theme of light repeated in almost all of the winter celebrations that we touch on, whether religious, spiritual, or focused on the natural world. Another winter celebration that has just happened and happened before the birth of Christ was the Jewish people's victory over Greek and Syrian oppression, reclaiming their holy temple, cleaning it, rededicating it, and lighting the lamps inside the temple. And here's the theme of light again. This is remembered each year with the celebration of Hanukkah, or the Festival of Lights. When this temple was reconsecrated, the candelabra inside only had enough oil for one night. But perhaps as a sign of providence, of having enough, the oil ultimately lasted for 8 days and nights. And so this is also the story of triumph, a small group of dedicated people winning the battle over a mighty and oppressive empire, essentially a victory of good over oppression. Predating either of these events by many centuries is the celebration of the winter solstice, falling on December 21st this year. We have only around 10 to 11 hours of sunlight daily for the next few months, leaving us with up to 13 hours of darkness each day. The daylight increases slowly and culminates in the spring equinox in late March. And these long nights are rich times for planting seeds of stillness and for contemplation. This pagan celebration began around 10,000 years BC, or before the birth of Christ, and continues to be celebrated and acknowledged today. I'm bringing the confluence of ancient happenings tonight to somewhat perhaps haphazardly construct the tip of a virtual iceberg of phenomena that culminates with us here together tonight. To point out that we're often aware of so little, so much of the time, and even when we're inclined towards an epic and sweeping kind of view, it's still challenging to process all that has happened before us, even our own ancestors, and what is happening still at any time and will continue to happen after we have ceased to be. In the external world, we likely have shared experiences. We watch the news in our communities, we meet with friends, and in our more private internal world, we have swirling constellations of events also, of stories about what is happening, perhaps ruminations about what might happen next in relationships and in the world. Joseph Goldstein says, everything, all the time, in every moment, is becoming otherwise. 19th century French writer Jean-Baptiste Alphonse Karr wrote, "The more things change, the more they are the same." And so we sense deeper truths remaining despite the fact of constant change. In fact, constant change is one of the deeper truths. This is one of the reasons that therapists are busier than ever helping folks sort the magnitude of papancha, of mental proliferation that can result from simply being alive and trying to be aware now, make sense of all this, hold it gently with understanding, just do the best we can and try to be nice to each other, basically. We can, of course, ignore all of these happenings, but the collective energy still presents itself. And with any sensitivity, we can feel the churning of the traditions of the season, the cycle of darkness, the declarative ending of another year. This time is ripe for reflection and contemplation. Because of all this, we often feel like something needs to happen, when in fact, nothing is really what needs to happen. The Dharma advises us to continue to sit quietly, especially when there is lots happening, and hold as still as possible, watching the breath, scanning the body, and observing the mind will be maybe the most helpful thing we can do now for ourselves and for those around us. This, for me, is the best way to possibly determine what is the most beneficial thing to think or to do, or to not think or not do. Regular introspective silence helps me notice the multitude of thoughts and actions I can dismiss as unhelpful, essentially not worth my time or energy. So, this is one simple and concrete way that I can uncover the root causes of stress for me personally, and they're likely similar to the causes of stress for all of us. Craving is the usual culprit, aversion is often close by, as well as the delusion that we're somehow immune from these ever present, naggy, draggy states of mind. Unless and until we determine this, will become another cause of stress for those in our life. How tricky this is, how nuanced we must become to observe our mind and body in this constant swirling energy of life without preferences, just seeing, just hearing, without reacting, responding maybe or maybe not, and feeling compassion for our own and for others' suffering, but not getting so enmeshed that we're hobbling ourselves, we're simply trying too hard to help. This is misguided compassion and would be considered probably unskillful. Sayadaw U Tejaniya writes, "Pay attention to the mind that wants to do things, to the mind that wants something to happen." We can stand in line and observe at the grocery store or at work. We can walk and observe through a crowd without preference, just witnessing our life and the lives of others, well wishing for self and for others, practicing letting go of preferences. This is skillful living, the best we can, and simplifying, doing good where and when we can in large and small ways. So tonight I'd like to continue to talk about what's weaving together for me right now this season, and hopefully there might be some content here that would be helpful for you too. Themes for tonight could be ancient and current energies of the winter season, not knowing how things are going to turn out, and the healing and informative modality of silence. So, we've talked about the energies of winter darkness and the confluence of celebrations at this time of the year and being present to that. We're often steeped in the national and global news, the strife in our nation and the world, watching deep suffering unfold and delusion continue. Things seem to be falling apart in many ways. And the Dharma tells us that things do come together and will fall apart. We must be in the falling apart phase right now, right? So, if contemplation is not what's happening for you these days, don't worry. This time of year does tend to be busier than most. We have family from out of town. We want to connect with old and new friends. And sometimes it feels like if we're not doing that social thing, that something is missing. So whether you're hibernating and meditating or catching up with friends and family to celebrate, take time to notice the feeling tones that these things bring. Mental noting of when I do this, this tone is present. When I do that, that tone is generated. Just be a collector of that kind of information. And so the paradox here, there's always a paradox, is that the longer nights invite us inside, into ourselves, into quiet, but it's party time. Part of this paradox, though, is that we can do both. And as lay people, it's healthy to do both in moderation. So, how do we acknowledge the turmoil of the times that we're living in, these fast-paced celebrations, as well as the beauty of the season, the silence of the earth, and our own quiet inner wisdom? How do we make space for not knowing in the midst of all this? In Zen, the saying is, not knowing is most intimate. By paying attention one silent moment at a time, your heart will tell you all that you need to know. And with practice, we can rest in the not knowing. When this winter light is dim all around us, it's the most natural time to turn in and nurture these heart energies. We don't need to be fooled by the plethora of party people on our feed, by the offers, the deals, the ideas that we need to go, go, go. There's nothing essentially wrong with these things unless they have become a driver in our lives. And then the influencers have indeed influenced us to get, to go, and to grab. Balance has become more essential than ever. Each day, quiet time to simply see where we are, lest our life become a eulogy for unfulfilled desire or unmet needs. At some point in the life of a meditator, we have to come to silence with sincerity, with clear intention, and give ourselves over to this. Matthew Bryn Silver says, nothing beautiful happens without sincere intention. No matter what our initial reasons are for seeking and starting a meditation practice, if and when we have a degree of spiritual maturation, we at some point will be fully committed. We will be fully sincere about the inquiry of who and what we actually are, committed to silent time each day. Rodney Smith defines this kind of sincerity as the manifestation of the heart when freed from the authority of self. He suggests that this kind of sincerity is the main currency of Dhamma. The word sincere comes from the Latin sincerus and means pure, clean, unmixed. So, what if we sincerely ask ourselves, maybe as a part of our daily practice, what we need each day, what's important, and then really, really listen to our hearts for the answer? This answer may not only serve your highest good, but might also meet the needs of those around you. And this is a life skill, dare I say, an insight that a regular silent practice brings to us, even lays at our feet. In the meantime, winter is wintering, people are peopling. It is so easy to ignore the signs that this might be a good time to hibernate, to create self renewal, and bask in this rare quietude that is possible now and for the next few months, and at any time, really, but especially when it's cold and dark outside. So, why make time for this? For me, it's so that I can have the groundedness, can carry the quiet into the party with me, can turn on the news and not be swept away by concern, this whole weather system of thoughts and emotions. I do this so I can show up and stay steady, to try to see clearly, to try to make good choices. We practice so that we can touch not knowing over and over and not feel panicky. Pema Chodron says, letting there be room for not knowing is the most important thing of all. When there is a big disappointment, we don't know if that's the end of the story. It may just be the beginning of a great adventure. Life is like this. We don't know anything. We call something bad, we call it good, but really, we just don't know. We, of course, each have different needs and different capacities. But we all practice silence diligently so that we can taste lots of experiences of every kind and be present to them all. Just hold them. And here we are, this group sitting together tonight quietly, hearing the call of silence, the stillness of Dhamma. Christmas, Hanukkah, the solstice, these are the observances, the rituals, the sacred times of winter for thousands of years, and they're some of the things we look to for meaning. I have a sticky note on my desk that says, in and of themselves, experiences have no meaning. Respectfully, I ask you to remember that the Dhamma teaches all things come from mind, and that we, my friends, are masterful meaning makers. I don't mean to offend during these potentially sacred times, but I've found that it's personally really important for me to balance all the celebratory energy and all the ritual and all of the silence and essentially surrender to not knowing. We do know a few things. We know that these calendars that we use are excellent tools. I'm very dependent on my calendar, but again, calendars are human inventions used to carve our time into meaningful patterns that we use to mark our lives, to help us make sense of the sun rising and setting as we follow a path that we might come to notice has many, many moments, perhaps months of uncertainty and times of not knowing, if we're honest, just not knowing what might happen next. In her article, The Zen of Not Knowing, in a recent Tricycle magazine, author Zenkai Blanche Hartman writes, we lose something very vital in our lives when it's more important to be the one who knows than it is to simply be aware of what's happening. As I was writing these thoughts, a message popped into my feed that said, get festive before it's too late. Then the doorbell rang a few minutes later, and a package was on the porch that said on the outside of the box, crave what you love and love what you crave. There, inside the box, were wonderful new socks that I had craved and clicked on. It's relentless, really. It's hard not to participate in the seemingly ceaseless craving. The John Kabat-Zinn term, full catastrophe, really sums it up, doesn't it? It's so much, this life, and it's glorious and quite joyful too. And so it's important here to add a fourth thing as we close tonight. Our first three being seasonal and ancient energies, not knowing how things will turn out, and the healing modality of silence. Our fourth thing can be the container. We are the container. Good friends help us hold all this, and we help them hold all this. There's so much messaging in the culture, more than 1 million ways to worm messages into our brains, and craving is actually being celebrated now. The root cause of suffering is being celebrated. Who understands this, and who can laugh about the absurdity of this with you? Some, but not all friends would understand. Not all friends will know what skillful action means. Basically, who you're hanging around with is important. See, your parents were right. And Sangha. Sangha is also the container with you. The Buddha tells us repeatedly that spiritual friends are the crux of the path. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. He calls them the triple gems. Folks that understand that the heart yearns for authenticity and connection, that most of us are simply looking for some people who are decent and able to sit quietly with us, laugh with us, consider deep thoughts with us, and of course, have fun. But finding this can be a rare thing. So, the importance of keeping your container healthy, the container of self and of Sangha. This is our end note tonight. We have these body minds, our body mind to care for. We have this Sangha, a collection of Dharma folks. And community is where it's at, folks. It really is. Remember that vibrant community involvement is a major component for ongoing psychological health, particularly when things are dark or frenzied or wonky, aka now. So, in closing, I invite you to let your eyes close, and together let's bless the unpredictable times we're living in. Let's bless the ancient energies of this winter season. May we have resilience to continue to meet these energies. Let's surrender into a deep curiosity and a peace centered on not knowing. And let's cultivate a sacred silence daily in our own container of body mind and in the container of Sangha. May it be so. I offer this for your consideration.